Are you someone who's very passionate about taking your business to the next level? Are you someone who has so many startup plans but are still stuck in the strategies how to start a business? Are you someone who's afraid to see how your business might actually grow over the years? If you're someone who's thinking about all of this, let me tell you this, guys. Watch this video because I will be giving you 4 stages of growth which will actually help you grow in the right way. This was one of the proven formula used by the brands itself, and today they are what they are. And I'm even going to mention what are those brands and how did they come up, including the method that they followed. I'm Varsha. Welcome to the Freedom Business English channel. Do not forget to subscribe and download our Freedom app. Reality of growth is something that we don't see. Reality of growth is what we think is sales, marketing, promotion, and all of this. Yes, these are the elements towards growth, but this is not the reality of growth. To see the reality of growth, you have to have your own strategies and own plans towards the business. But when I say the own plan and strategy, not every time whatever you plan might actually work. You have to take it to another level by thinking that what is possible for your business and what is your business model and what is your purpose of starting this business. And then after you derive all these three, you have to come to one strategy towards growth of it. But there is one such method that I will be telling in this video that you can also understand and implement it. When I say about this one such proven formula and method, this formula is actually called as the hockey stick method. Why hockey stick and what is hockey stick? This is actually a pattern towards the growth of business that you can analyze. This actually starts in a flat line and then goes straight above towards the success. And growth towards this is direct. When I say what is the line, I tell you this is the line of growth of each and every business over the years. So initially you can see a flat line and this growth doesn't change until one point. But then there is a slight curve which hits the right point towards your business and then boom, your business is on top. This is what is called as the hockey stick pattern. And I will be telling you the 4 stages that involves in this hockey stick pattern because these are the 4 most important stages that you have to understand and then determine where you stand in this cycle. So talking about the 4 stages of the growth in the hockey stick pattern is that first stage is the tinkering stage. Tinkering stage is nothing but the stage that you use for ideas and building the initial stage of the business and then implementing it a little by little. In this particular stage, you actually tend to go over and over about with your plan and your business model because not every first plan works. Nobody just sits and scripts down the entire story in just one night and then shoot a movie because that eventually will lead them towards a flop. That is why directors actually take more and more time in sitting and scripting overnight. It might take 2 days, 3 days, and then take their own time and scratch more papers than you can imagine just to get the perfect story out. So if you are this entrepreneur, you have to think like a director. Tinkering stage is actually the direction stage. You tend to think about how much funding do you have to raise, how much is the investment that you have to use, and what is the ideas that you initially put in so that this stage can go along the way you imagine in at least 1 year. As a tip in this stage, I would just tell you, when you're planning a business, always make sure that you plan in such a way that you have the entire idea at least for a year. I'm not telling you need the perfect plan, but at least have an idea of what you're going to do the entire year. Because as a business owner, you will have to at least sustain in the market for 1 year. So thinking about this tinkering stage, you have more and more ideas and you will be flipping around the ideas thinking that what has to be changed. After this, you go to a stage where you've already started the business and then think about what is happening. This still comes under the tinkering stage only because when you initially start a business, there might be a couple of changes that you see in your customers or in the preferences of the customers. That is where you have to keep making the change until and unless for 6 months just so that you can get adjusted to the mindset of these customers. Over time, you understand what has been needed and what is not. So you get the basic idea of who are your actual customer, who are your targeted audience, and what are the basic things that they might need and you have to start when it comes to a business. So in this tinkering stage, the next thing you will go and think about how to promote or make people understand that you exist in the market. So when you are doing this, you go off basic steps of adjusting to the entire environment and letting people know in the same locality that you exist. Let's take food venture for example. If a food stall starts in a particular place, people around the place know this particular stall exists there than compared to people who stay like 3 or 4 kilometers away from the place. So this is one of the things that you can also understand and analyze, that tinkering stage involves more of ideas and thinking, and then this is where the business growth is still flat and still growing, and it grows bit by bit, and there is sudden raise and sudden fall in this particular stage itself. You never know how your business might click. Few people are lucky enough to make sure that their business actually clicks within 1 year, but not everyone is that lucky. So if you're somewhere in the tinkering stage, you have to understand that you have 3 steps simple. That is, one is changing of ideas, and next is adjusting to your customers, and third thing is that making sure that you at least reach the basic level of the locality that people know you. So we've completed the stage 1. Next stage is the blade years. I call this the blade years only because this particular stage actually lies from 2 to 5 years. For few companies, it actually might be from 2 to 4 years because they might actually have grown in the tinkering stage itself. But blade years have the rough advantage of having the competition push you up quick. But I would call this blade years only because these are the stages which have challenges and risks which are more in number. When you're growing in the tinkering stage, you happen to learn the basic ideology, understand the customers, allocate your entire location. But in the blade years, you have to focus and concentrate completely on the growth. Because in this, you're going to have a couple of rivals, you're going to have a couple of competition, you're going to have risks and everything. When I'm talking about risk, it can be financial instability. You might happen to lose investment. Probably your customers can actually go in larger number and also give you good benefit of profit, but this can also increase in loss. And this is the stage where most of them don't survive. Blade year is only year where most of the startups actually go down. About 80% of the startups fail in this stage. So when I'm talking about you as an entrepreneur, you have to think that what is your greatest strength and weakness in this blade years. Once you analyze what is your greatest strength and then analyze what is your greatest weakness, the best thing you can do is turn your weakness into strength. If it's competition, one thing that you can do as a owner is that you can understand what level your competition is in and then think about changing your product or changing your logo. Most of the brands have actually improved in this particular stage is only because most of them ended up rebranding here. So when rebranding happens to you as a company, you will start thinking about why and what is the sole purpose of your existence, and you will think about the most important point, that is target new set of customers. If your plan A of loyal customers is actually working, try rebranding it, because your brand should not only stick to one set of loyal customers. You have to have new customers coming in and you have to turn them into loyal customers. So this is one place of advantage of turning your competition, which might be your weakest point, into the strongest point. So imagine that you have trouble in sales. Always remember, sales has a prominent role to play when it comes to business. How can my sales, which is going down, play a prominent role? As I've given you a couple of examples when it comes to sales and strategies used by other brands, you can actually implement them. You can actually use by getting and changing the way you campaign and then capture the people's mind, either by music, either by emotional connection, or either by making sure your product can actually help in their day-to-day life. These are the simple concerns that can actually arise when it comes to sales and competition. But the most important thing is that your survival in this particular stage. This stage has a lot more to think about than anything else, which are called as risks. Probably you might be doing amazing and excellent when it comes to everything, the way it's marketed, the way the sales are happening, and way you're promoting your entire business. But you might fail when there might be sudden risk. How do you face sudden risk? As a company, you will have your entire plan towards it. But the only way that an entrepreneur can succeed towards this is with a calm and patient mind. So think about what are the ways that you can overcome in the blade stage and then understand the methods of simple growth towards all this. So once you happen to cross the blade stage, the next thing I can tell you is that you will go miles towards the business. So the blade stage is the most crucial and critical stage that you have to surpass. Next stage is the growth point. When I say growth point, in a hockey stick, you have the light bend. So that actually is the growth point. Once you survive the blade years, next stage is the pickup point, which is called as the growth point. Because in this particular point, your sales happens to increase and your growth towards the business also increase. The best part of growth or the scale up point is that you know that what are the challenges that you have faced in the past years, and you know that what is the best logic or best plan that you have implemented, and this will work in the growth point because you have your own plan and you have your own strategy and you will continue doing this. Because in this growth point, once you've gone against the scale point and people started recognizing you, the growth point is much more easier. And when you understand this growth point, people will start collaborating in your business and then contribute towards your business as well, which can actually help more and more customers to recognize you, identify you, and then grow. You might actually get started by 3 or 4 different locations. The step of growth in this particular sector is very easy once you understand and analyze what is the next step you have to take. But it's actually told that more than 20% actually fail in this particular stage only because people overestimate here. Just because they hit the growth point and they are going a little high, people will end up having overconfidence, and that is where I am telling you, my friend, you are making a big mistake as an entrepreneur. Never have overconfidence because you are scaling up. Yes, that must be also your weakest point, because something little affects your business can also bring the entire thing down. So remember that always have to keep the overestimation and overconfidence aside and then go by the way you naturally are and then build up the next plan towards it. In the growth stage, you also have to remember that each time you keep growing, you have to bring up and bring in new ideas. As I told about rebranding, this should not stop. When I tell you about rebranding, this happens in the blade years as well as the growth point. Because once you keep refreshing people with new ads, new logos, and new ideas, people will actually stick on. When I talk about new ideas, we all remember the point where Vodafone actually happened to start by a hutch puppy and then show that where you go, I follow. And then they moved on to the trend of Zuzus. So we all know that the way Zuzus were actually bought in and the way they captured people's mind, that was a different approach to the people itself. So always the growth stage depends on the way you try to capture people's mind, because that is much more difficult than you growing. Your growth entirely depends on your customers, not on your product itself. But your business depends completely on your product, but not on the customers itself. Remember that they are two different things. Remember what is the logic that you have to use and what are the strategies you have to keep changing so that you can scale up to the next level itself. Next step is the final step, which is called as immense growth or surging growth. Why is it immense or surging growth? Because this is the end point where you directly reach to the top. Your scale of growth will be increasing year by year and you will be growing. When I say growth, this might also differ in months. If your business is doing incredibly good, you will have a month's turnover. But you're going by the slow path, which is okay and fine. You might have a turnover per annum as well. But this is one final stage that you will be growing and growing itself. There is nobody stopping you. But as we all know that even the biggest of biggest fish might also get caught one or the other day. So remember that don't destroy the empire that you have built, because this stage always leads you towards success and we can hardly see any failures in this particular stage. Even if you did, these 3 stages would have already trained you to reach the final stage and understand what is your competition, what is your maximum that you can go about with, and what are the maximum risk and stress that might actually hit you by your path. And this particular stage happens to make sure that you will go and follow the same rules. So when you reach this final stage, there is nothing much that you have to change. You can actually keep going on and continuing the same way that you did for all 3 stages. The only changes that you had to make was in these 3 stages. But once you already made changes and once you understand the entire market that you're dealing with, you are the king player there. So when I tell you about this last stage, this stage you already know what is your greatest strength and what is your greatest weakness, and you know what you have to do to overcome. As I always believe that every person who's determined and has the passion to achieve something, no matter what comes in their way, no matter what situation gives them a test of, will always go about with it. So if you like this video, do not forget to like, share and subscribe. Also download our Freedom app because it's got more and more information when it comes to business, and you yourself can actually learn or take some tips even when it comes to business as well as organic farming as well as financial base. Don't forget to download it because I'm sure that it can provide you with more information than I've just given. Thank you so much. Get wise and break free.